And welcome to another episode of Mount Josmore. I'm your host, Joz. That's my face all over the place right there. This is Mount Josmore. This is my YouTube series where I pick my top four of something, mention some honorable mentions of that topic. I choose a topic at random every week and give you guys my top four after mentioning some people who came close but didn't quite make Mount Josmore. Everyone talks about Mount Rushmore as their goats, their top four of something, and I pick random topics and go from there. What I would like to do, first and foremost, if you guys want to see a certain topic, if you're curious what my Mount Rushmore of this would be, feel free to leave it in the comments. I'd love to start interacting with you guys a little bit more, get a little bit more fun out there, and get you guys involved a little bit more in the process. And then the other thing here is, as always, speaking of the comment section, I do request humbly that you guys keep it civil in the comment section. You know, everyone can disagree. As far as this list goes, this list is my opinion and my opinion alone, and you guys are entitled to yours just as much as I'm entitled to mine. The only thing I ask is to be respectful in the comments. Nobody likes an internet troll as much as I like arguing on the internet from time to time. It's just not something that people need to deal with every day. You never know what people are dealing with, and they don't need the stress of some stranger going at them for no reason on social media. That being said, it is the start of summer. Memorial Day weekend has come and gone. My birthday was over the weekend as well, which is part of the reason that this is coming out a little bit later than usual this week. However, what we are looking into today is going to be my Mount Rushmore of fictional baseball players. Now, the cool thing about Mount Josmore is I can pick topics as specific or as broad as I choose. And eventually I will probably do a Mount Rushmore of all sports, like one of each of the major four in the U.S. But I decided to narrow it down because it's baseball season. You know, I coming home from work, I drive past the ballpark in downtown Buffalo. It smells like hot dogs and peanuts, and I love it. I am all for baseball. I'm a big baseball guy. I'm a baseball coach, baseball player, whole 9 yards, love the game of baseball. So I figured, why not dive into the fictional world of baseball? And we're going to talk about my Mount Rushmore of fictional baseball players. As always, we're going to start with my honorable mentions. And what I'm going to do here is there are probably three that are pretty close to most people's Mount Rushmore. And by three, I mean, I got five from one movie that people would probably argue for. One from one movie. We'll get to those. So I want to kind of tease you guys a little bit with my more controversial decisions to leave them off by going with the ones that I left off that I think most people would, or maybe you haven't even seen the movie to know whether or not they belong. First and foremost, we're going to start with Stan Ross from the movie Mr. 3000. Stan Ross retired with 3,000 hits. Ironically, when in his younger years, when he was a young punk-ass kid, and this is kind of the the premise of the movie, is his team was in a playoff hunt, and he got his 3,000th hit and hung it up. I'm done. I'm out. Take me out. I'm leaving. Then some 9 years later, I believe it is, a scoring error and record-keeping error proved he only retired with 2,997. So he comes out of retirement, back on his team, and, obviously the game has passed him by a little bit, but it takes him a minute to get in the swing of things, stuff like that, and he comes out, ends up, I believe, retiring one short. I believe he was Mr. 2999 at the end of the movie. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. It's a campy movie, but it's pretty good. But talking about a dude who had 3,000 hits in the show, pretty darn good. So, Stan Ross gets up there, but doesn't quite make the list, and you'll find out why as I get to my Mount Rushmore. 3,000 hits in the show, pretty darn good. But the movie itself, I mean, we're talking about a guy who's well past his prime, just trying to eke that out, and how important that record was to him, or that number was to him, to be Mr. 3000. He marketed himself for a long time as Mr. 3000. So when it got taken away from him, he was pretty pissed. And you kind of see him and his attitude, and then he kind of, quells back into a little bit more of being a normal human, and being a good person by the end of the movie. But that's not why we're here. In the same vein of aging or aged ball players, Jack Elliott from Mr. Baseball, played by Tom Selleck, the man with the second greatest mustache in Hollywood. Second to Sam Elliott. Little tie-in there. I don't know how that worked, but we did. Here we are. Jack Elliott, basically a professional ball player, couldn't hack it in the show anymore, finds himself playing in Japan and trying to learn the intricacies and nuances of playing the game in Japan. So we are, we're talking about another aging athlete here, someone who is likely to not do so great, hangs in there in Japan, but again, couldn't hack it in the majors. So doesn't quite get the nod from me. Going to move on to a couple guys from another movie. That movie is Summer Catch. We're going to start with a not-so-main character in Mickey Dominguez. Mickey Dominguez, I believe, was a middle infielder who was a solid ball player, but was, had the yips a little bit. Was struggling to make plays, was struggling with the basics, the fundies, as you call them, really struggling at the dish, and he then hits what the baseball world would refer to as a slump buster, and that slump buster was not, by normal definition, a slump buster, but he ends up going and finding himself in the arms of a very attractive older woman who gets him to kind of settle down, settle in, and the dude kind of cruises to a pretty solid season from there. It's been a long time since I've seen Summer Catch, so I don't really recall. They kind of told, I think they told stories of where everybody ended up after the Cape League. The Cape League is like the summer college league that guys who are looking to get signed and drafted go to. Especially back then. It's still top notch right now. But you were there to begin with, pretty damn good. And then he, like I said, he ends up having a pretty solid summer after his little fling with Miss Beverly. And from the same vein, we are talking about Mr. Ryan Dunn. Ryan Dunn, the main character of the show, of the movie, and kind of, he's a local boy, right? He cuts people's grass, and there's an entire like love story behind the Summer Catch, where he's mowing the lawn of a affluent vacationer or snowbird or whatever you want to call them. Like he runs the tractor into their tree while he's cutting the grass because he's just distracted by her. Underlying story being the baseball side of it. He's always had a lot of talent, but kind of crumbled under pressure. Didn't really do well with being in the spotlight, and comes around and is pitching the game of his life at the end of the year. And he actually walks away from it to go get the girl, which that reason alone to me kind of takes him out of the Mount Rushmore, because it's a great movie. It's a lot of fun, a lot of campy characters, a lot of fun characters in the movie. But the big one here is the fact that you're pitching the game of your life, potentially about to get signed, and you leave to go get the girl. And I think based on the movie, again, it's been a while, I believe he does get signed by somebody, which is the most unrealistic thing I've probably ever seen, because I don't know that a scout would actually go out and sign somebody who walked off the field to go get the girl. Like, whatever. Ryan Dunn from Summer Catch, you didn't make the list. Not the top list anyway. You do get mentioned, though. Lucky duck. This next one is probably going to start where people start getting the pitchforks and questioning my acumen here. And this is Mr. Ebby Kelvin Lelouch, also known as Nuke Lelouch from Bull Durham. Bull Durham, easily my favorite, top two for sure, but probably my favorite baseball movie. Great quotes throughout the entire thing. It is the most baseball of a lot of these movies, where it's kind of true to the game. Some of the nuances, some of the, the dugout culture, the locker room culture, the superstitions, like all kinds of stuff, and just how players interact and grow. And Nuke Lelouch, they, $1 million arm with a 5-cent head. And the reason he is honorable mention is because he was nothing, right? Big arm, no brains. And we meet him, quote unquote, leaving his fastball in the locker room in quote unquote some piece of ass, where he's basically hooking up with a girl in the locker room prior to his first start. And then he comes out, 20 strikeouts, new league record, 20 walks, also a new league record. They go on, he hit the mascot, the scorekeeper's box, the press box twice, and 3 fans, all new league records. Basically, the dude was going to work his way out because he wasn't focused on the right stuff. And it was a combination of two people. It was the main female character in the movie, whose name I'm blanking on. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to stop and look it up because I'm on a roll. And another character who we will talk about later. Spoiler alert. If it wasn't for those two, he would have washed out. And by the time the movie's over, he's in the show. And, just learning and growing and developing in a way he would not have had it not been for other characters in the movie, gets him on the honorable mentions list. But if it wasn't for those people, I don't think we can say you'd have been that guy. So, a lot of these other dudes we see either establish themselves or develop themselves, not because of other people directly. But Ebby Calvin LaLouche from Bull Durham, honorable mention of my top fictional baseball players. This is where I really start to get, people with pitchforks coming at me, I'm sure. I'm going to do a group one first, and that is the entire cast of Major League. We're not going to go into Major League 2 or back to the minors because both, Major League 2, just as good as Major League 1. But it also kind of tells me, it does give me some gas for why these guys aren't them, right? So Major League is basically a team of misfits that's picked to lose and be so bad that the owner can move the Cleveland Indians out of Cleveland. So how can any of those people be picked to be on the all-time fictional baseball players list solely based on the fact that you weren't that good? And this team in 2 years, 2 years, that's what we're talking about with most of these guys. One for one of them. And two for one guy under two different actors, but that's beside the point. We're looking at Serrano, Roger Dorn, Jake Taylor, Willie Mays Hayes, and Ricky Vaughn. Wild Thing himself. And I think Wild Thing is probably where I'm going to catch the most flack. Pedro, big time hitter, right? Big hitter. You throw him a fastball, it ain't coming back. Couldn't touch a curveball to save his life. Through the entire movie, he went 1 for 400 on curveballs for the season, and the one that he hit just happened to be, the moon shot in the, when they were looking to win the pennant and that whole thing. I defend you, I sacrifice to you, you know help me now. F you, Joe Boo, I do it myself, right? So Serrano, he comes back a Buddhist and he sucks again. Doesn't make the list. Dorn, he was a hot shot. He was, thought he was Mr. Big Stuff. And, just going from there, he is just that guy that is going to, we saw, that Olay bullshit, and then he retires, then unretires, activates himself in the second movie. It's brutal. Jake Taylor, aging catcher, great guy, good coach, and, ends up being a coach in round 2, or number 2. And he ends up being that guy that comes out and he gets replaced by a younger dude in the later game or in the later movie. He, holds his own, does well. But again, he was picked on that team because he's old and past his prime. And Wild Thing Ricky Vaughn played in the California Penal League. And I mean, on multiple occasions through both movies got relegated to the pen. He is basically a big shot for 2 appearances where he is basically where he basically comes out and shows out what he could be. And after he does it in the first one, right, he comes back out and he's a corporate shill in the second one until the end of the movie again when he comes out and it's the old Wild Thing. I'm sorry, 2 performances does not make you a goat. It does not. So, last but not least, the last one for my honorable mention, and this one's going to get a lot of people fired up because this is a great movie across the board for a lot of people. Benny the Jet from Sandlot. And hear me out before you come for me. Hear me out. The issue I have with Benny the Jet and Sandlot is majority of his prowess, majority of what we see of him is it's in the Sandlot. right? And he runs away from a dog. So he's fast. He's real fast. I love fast guys. But his main claim to fame is he's the best of a group of ragtag kids who don't play in a league. And he ran away from a dog. And he is basically he ends up in the show, right? And that's the whole story. Like, he ends up stealing home in the show. So he gets there. But we don't learn about a whole lot of that. We don't see a whole ton of it. We see next to none of it, actually. And all we do see is the Sandlot stuff and running away from a dog. Again, great movie. Loved it. My childhood in a nutshell. But as far as GOAT, I don't think running away from a giant St. Bernard that ends up being a big suck. Like, that dog ends up being friendly as all hell. Like, there was a legend about the dog. The dog just wanted to play. He was just big and scary. So kids were like, oh my God. Like, that does not make you a GOAT of baseball. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. No, I'm not sorry about that. You can come for me in the comments if you want on that one. I'm gonna get rocked for that. Without further ado, we're gonna get into my actual Mount Rushmore here, and I'm gonna dive right back into Bull Durham with Crash Davis. Crash Davis made Ebby Calvin LaLoosh. If not for Crash Davis, Ebby would have been a flash in the pan. Never would have made it anywhere. Never would have gotten anywhere in the world of baseball because he believed his own hype. He probably, if not for the competition between him and Crash, probably wouldn't have landed the girl because he wouldn't have stuck it out and cared so much. I'm not sure she would have been able to fix him on her own, but the fact that you needed fixing, and Crash Davis is the one who did it, taught him a whole ton of stuff, all kinds of things, right? And then on top of it, we find out that Crash Davis ends up being the all-time minor league home run leader. Hard to argue with. He was, he's the player to be named later. He's a journeyman. Anyone who plays that long, you got to get a nod in my book. And then you're directly responsible for a kid with $1 million arm and a 5-cent head making it to the show. Ladies and gentlemen, Crash Davis, the man, bar none. Numero uno. Again, my Mount Rushmore is not in any particular order of ranking, just one of 4, Crash Davis. Next, we're going to go to Roy Hobbs from The Natural. This movie is great. It's an older baseball movie, so I understand if a lot of people haven't seen it. It is shot at the Old War Memorial Stadium in Buffalo, New York, where I am from. And basically the premise here is this dude gets shot, lays low for a long time, and then comes back, and he's the man. He's got a swing like you wouldn't believe, and this dude comes out, and he is just a dude, right? He's got a bat made out of a tree that was struck by lightning, and called the Wonder Boy. And the movie as a whole is great, and again, he's just a natural. He is that good. He is the natural. The movie's about him being the natural. Wild Times. Hard to argue with one. Hard to argue with that, at least. Next up, my man Billy Chappell for Love of the Game. This is another one that doesn't get the love it deserves. I think it flopped at the box office. I love this movie. This is one of my favorite movies. Easily top 10. I wouldn't put it top 5, but easily a top 10 movie for me. The movie itself is top 4 baseball movies. So spoiler alert if I ever do that list. But the guy had a 19-year career in the show. That's, in this day and age, unheard of. You're lucky to get 10 years out of a dude now. He might be under contract for 30, but you're lucky if you get 10 on the field from him. 19 years on the mound. And he just has this whole situation about him, this whole thing about him where he comes out and does his thing. Clear the mechanism, trigger the mechanism, whatever it is. And he starts to lose it late in the game. And his catcher comes out and he's like, anybody been on base? Anybody have a hit? He's like, catcher's like, no. No one's even been on base. And they have this heartfelt conversation about what he's got left. And it's the last game of his career, and he's throwing a perfect game, and he didn't even realize it until the very end when he was like, wait a minute. Is that a thing? And didn't look back at the scoreboard, wasn't like, I have a no-hitter going. Nothing. He was like, oh. 19-year career in the show. throws a perfect game in his last outing, and it's a great movie to boot. So you're a starter in the show, playing spoiler, by the way, on the Detroit Tigers, playing spoiler. Pretty sure it's the Tigers. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. But just playing spoiler, late in the year, trying to ruin somebody's playoff hopes. They're out of it, and he's out throwing the game of his life. 19 years in the show. You're not gonna win an argument with me when you say somebody threw 19 years in the show, and there's somebody better. So there are not 4 people better than Billy Chappell, and I struggle to put pitchers at the top of the list because they only throw once every week, once every 4 to 5 days. But 19 years, I'm in. Last but not least, and this is probably the most controversial one on this list, and I could have listed a bunch of other people from this movie. I probably should have in the honorable mentions, but I didn't want to spoil this one. So there are many people in this movie that probably deserve to be talked about. But again, I didn't want to spoil this one because I know this one's going to be problematic for some people. From the movie A League of Their Own. No, it's not Mr. Dugan. No, it's not one of the Henson sisters. It's not Betty Spaghetti. It's Marla Hooch. Marla Hooch was a stud. Marla Hooch hit the ball so damn hard the dudes didn't want to play with her. Marla Hooch was the Babe Ruth of A League of Their Own. The members of the All-American League. They came from cities near and far, and Marla Hooch was the best hitter amongst them. And again, her father flat out said, I raised her as a boy. I wanted a son, I raised her as a boy. And, eventually you hit a point where you can't deny that she's what she is. But again, the guys didn't want to play with her. They meet her, she's hitting in a gym and she's breaking windows and dudes are ducking for cover. It's insane. And you're not going to Marla Hooch, power hitter in A League of Their Own, professional baseball player. And to the best of my knowledge, again, that movie's pretty much, the movie is based on a true story. So I don't know if the actual character Marla Hooch was a person, but she was based on somebody at bare minimum. You're not going to tell me there are 4 better people to be on this list. Dottie was a great catcher. Pretty solid hitter. Marla Hooch hit bombs in a league that people didn't do that. She hit bombs on professional baseball fields. Not modified, not shortened, not shorter fences. I'm pretty sure, there's a point there at Wrigley and she's hitting them out. Sorry. You're not going to tell me that there's 4 people better than her that deserve to bump her off this list. And especially not one of those 1 or 2 season wonders from Major League. You're not getting that through on me. Sorry. You can, and I hope this one goes off in the comments. I really, really do. Because I would love to have this conversation with people, and I'm looking forward to the ones on TikTok that come out too. But that being said, that is going to wrap my list, my Mount Rushmore of fictional baseball players. And thanks for tuning in, guys. You know the deal. I drop one every week as best I can, based on my very busy schedule. I'm a very important man. But one thing I always like to finish these shows up with is, be kind to each other out there. You never know who's fighting what kind of battle and what demon somebody is fighting that they never talk about. So be nice to each other out there. You never know if your smile, your hello, or your friendly interaction could be the thing that stops somebody from quitting that day. And with that being said, you're allowed to feel sad. You're allowed to, go through some shit, but you're not allowed to quit. And at the end of the day, it can't rain forever. I promise. So thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll check you next time on the next episode of Mount Josmore.